What's up guys, my name is Amir. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing a bit of a comparison between two phones in the mid-range price segment that have really piqued your interest. Of course, I'm talking about the Vivo V20, which goes for around $270, and the Realme 7 Pro, which goes for around $250. So as you can see, Realme is now trying to take on its bigger cousins like Oppo and Vivo, and the price differential feels very deliberate to me in order for Realme to undercut Vivo and challenge them in the market. Of course, which one you choose will depend on your own personal preferences, but hopefully after watching this video, you're going to be able to better decide which of these phones fits your own usage requirements. In this video, we're going to compare their build quality and design and camera and performance and everything else, so keep watching. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on future videos. So let's start by first talking about the spec sheets here. Both phones come with Snapdragon 720G chipsets, Adreno 618 GPUs, 8 gigs of RAM, and 128 gigs of UFS 2.1 storage. Both phones have AMOLED panels, where the Realme 7 Pro has a 6.4-inch display and the Vivo V20 has a slightly bigger 6.44-inch display. But there are differences in these displays, which we will talk about later on in the video. Moving on to the cameras, both have 64 megapixel main cameras, but the Realme 7 Pro has a quad cam setup while the Vivo V20 has a triple camera setup. And on the front, Realme gives you a 32 megapixel selfie shooter, whereas the Vivo V20 boasts a 44 megapixel selfie shooter with eye tracking autofocus, which is also its main marketed feature. Both phones have dedicated SD card slots for expansion, so full dual SIM support. Now talking about the batteries, here we have one of Realme 7 Pro's main marketed features, which is the 4500 mAh battery with, get this, 65 watts of super dart charging. On the other hand, the Vivo V20 comes with 4000 mAh with 33 watts of super fast charging. The Realme 7 Pro also has dual stereo speakers, while the Vivo has a single bottom firing speaker. So starting our comparison with build and design, with the Vivo V20 we get this premium feel because this phone is very slim at only 7.38 millimeters, and we also get a glass back. Now there isn't any Gorilla Glass protection here, but this glass does have AG matte finish or anti-glare coating, which gives you that soft touch satin feel that we see in more premium and flagship phones. The frame is made of plastic, but the buttons here again are metal, with the power button having a bit of a different texture so that you can easily identify it, and it also adds to the premium feel of the phone. On the other hand, we have the Realme 7 Pro, which is made entirely out of plastic. The back is plastic and so is the frame, while on the front we have Gorilla Glass 3 Plus. Here too we have anti-glare coating on the back, which gives off this matte plus metallic look, and plastic is also more durable than glass for drop protection. And even though the Realme 7 Pro has a bigger battery, the difference in thickness here is not that much, but having said that, the Vivo V20 definitely feels more sleek in the hand. So if I had to pick a winner between these two phones, I would probably side with the Vivo V20 because of its build and design, feels more sleek, has premium materials, the buttons are also more tactile, and that matte finish glass back. Now moving on to the displays, like I said before, both these phones have AMOLED panels, both offer full HD resolution, both of them have in-display fingerprint sensors, and both are similar in terms of colors and brightness. So to choose a winner here, we're gonna have to dig a little deeper. If we compare the fingerprint sensors side by side, here you'll see that the Realme 7 Pro is a little bit faster, but it's only a tiny bit, and Vivo V20 is not sluggish by any means. But the biggest difference between these two displays is in the style of the notch. Vivo V20 has a dewdrop style notch, which houses its game changer selfie camera, while the Realme 7 Pro doesn't have a notch at all. Instead, it has a hole punch cutout on the top left. Now, it's up to your own personal preference which one you like more, but hole punch cutouts are more 2020, they feel more fresh and trendy, and adding all these differences up, I'm gonna give this round to the Realme 7 Pro, but by a very small margin. And while we're talking about the display, let's also talk about the content consumption experience on these phones. And here, those dual stereo speakers in the Realme 7 Pro definitely come into play. I think having dual stereo speakers for any mid-range phone is a big wow factor, especially if you watch a lot of movies or play a lot of games on your phone. Now moving on to the performance of these two phones, obviously there's a tie here. Both these phones have identical processor, GPU, RAM, and storage configurations, and the only differences in performance will come from the interface and optimizations. And we can see this in the benchmarks. On Geekbench, both phones have similar scores, with the Realme 7 Pro having a slightly higher multi-core score. Same with Antutu, again, the Realme has an ever so slight edge, but this won't really have any significant impact on your overall experience. Snapdragon 720G is a very capable and efficient gaming chipset, and so both these phones will handle all your daily use apps easily, and you won't see any big differences in day-to-day performance. Talking about gaming, both these phones will run PUBG on high settings and high frame rates. COD Mobile will also run on high settings smoothly. Now moving on to the interface and software experience, here your decision will again be based on your own personal preference about which one you like more. Talking about Vivo V20, it runs the latest Android 11 with Vivo's own FunTouch OS 11. Vivo V20 is one of those few phones right now that come with Android 11 out of the box, and with this new FunTouch OS 11, the interface feels a bit more stock Android-ish than it felt in the past. On the other hand, we have the Realme 7 Pro, which still ships with Android 10, but it has Realme's own Realme UI, which is a very close to stock Android experience. And that, for me at least, is a big selling point. But again, I can't really choose a winner here. I prefer stock Android, but you may not. So here you're going to go with whichever you think looks and feels better. Now moving on to the battery and charging setup, I think here the winner is very clear. So on one hand, we have the Vivo V20 with 4000 milliamp hours and 33 watts of super fast charging. And on the other, we have the Realme 7 Pro with 4500 milliamp hours and groundbreaking, earth-shattering 65 watts of super dart charging, which is also the main marketed feature of this phone. Now don't get me wrong, the 33 watts on the Vivo V20 is not slow by any means. You're talking about empty to full charge times of around 1 hour and 15 minutes, which is pretty good, and most people will be able to go a full day on a full charge with the V20. But here the Realme 7 Pro has absolutely dazzling performance. Even with the bigger 4500 milliamp hour battery, Realme 7 Pro charges way faster. Get this, empty to half battery 12 to 13 minutes, empty to full battery 35 to 36 minutes. That is definitely the fastest charging phone that I've ever used, and on a full charge this phone will easily go a day. For most people it's going to last a day and a half, maybe even more if your usage is lighter. So between these two phones, if you want an absolute battery monster, you have to go with the Realme 7 Pro. Now moving on to the cameras on these phones, let's take a look at the camera spec sheets first. So Realme 7 Pro has a Sony IMX682 sensor in its main 64 megapixel camera, while the Vivo V20 has a Samsung GW1 sensor, again 64 megapixels. Both phones also have 8 megapixel ultra-wide cameras, but the Realme 7 Pro has a quad camera setup, so you get a 2 megapixel macro camera and a 2 megapixel depth sensor, while the Vivo V20 has a triple camera setup, so you only get a depth sensor. But I don't really have any issues with this quad camera and triple camera designation, because I think most brands right now are using these gimmicks like 2 megapixel and 5 megapixel macro cameras just so that they can have that label of having a quad camera setup. And Vivo V20 does have macro camera functionality built into its main camera as well. Now comparing the rear cameras side by side, the overall image quality from the main cameras on both these phones is pretty good. The Realme 7 Pro does have a slight edge on dynamic range where you can see more colors in the sky. In terms of color profile, Vivo V20 is a bit on the warmer side, while the Realme 7 Pro is on a brighter, cooler side. I feel like the Vivo V20 has a more realistic color profile, whereas Realme 7 Pro's images are made to look more pleasing. Color reproduction on both these cameras is on point, but images from the V20 do have a more saturated look to them. Moving on to the ultra-wide cameras, the resolution drop to 8 megapixel is apparent on both phones, and here I think both these phones have very similar performance, with the main difference being in the color profiles. Comparing the portrait shots, here I feel the Vivo V20 produced more pleasing images with better saturation, and the edge detection is also a little better than the Realme 7 Pro. Talking about low light performance, again the Vivo V20 is a little better. In this image from the main camera, you can see which is the better image, and even with the night mode on, you can see that the Vivo V20 does have better results, probably because of that Samsung GW1 sensor, which is noted for its low light performance. And now moving on to the selfies, here the Realme 7 Pro has a 32 megapixel selfie shooter, while the Vivo V20 has its biggest selling point, that 44 megapixel selfie shooter with eye tracking autofocus. Which means that not only does the Vivo V20 give you higher res selfie images, in video it also gives you extremely sharp autofocus. Alongside this, in bright outdoor environments with the Realme 7 Pro, I was getting a halo around my head, which seems to be a software issue with the backlight HDR. It's pretty clear that the Vivo V20 has a superior camera game, and with the Vivo V20 you also get some added camera functionality like the dual view video mode, where you can take videos using the front and back camera simultaneously. There's also a picture-in-picture mode which can be used for the same thing. So if I had to choose a winner between these two phones in terms of camera performance, I would side with the Vivo V20 just because of the more realistic color profile which I prefer, better low light performance, and that groundbreaking selfie camera. So as you can see, both these phones have very comparable spec sheets. If we consider some obvious differences, Vivo V20 has a slightly bigger display but with a dewdrop notch, while the Realme 7 Pro has a hole punch cutout. Realme 7 Pro also has a bigger battery with 65 watts of super dart charging, which makes it the fastest charging phone that I've used so far. The Realme 7 Pro comes with dual speakers, which are very rare in the mid-range price segment and do wonders to your content consumption experience. So in a nutshell, if you want premium built-in design and a better camera experience, go for the Vivo V20. And if you want amazing charging speed, a bigger battery, and a superior content consumption experience because of the hole punch cutout and the dual stereo speakers, then you go with the Realme 7 Pro. But that's just me. Let me have your thoughts about these phones in the comment section below. Let me know which one you would choose out of these two. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like on it. You can also share it with your friends to support the channel. That'll be it for this one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.